Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Life Forces, the podcast. I am always so pleased to be here. My voice might sound a little weird today. At least it sounds weird to me. Bear with me. I was sick twice in like the span of 2 weeks, which is, not so normal. And I was wondering what it was all about. Because I've been getting into things like German New Medicine, which is this fascinating approach to healing. I was like, what is this all about? What is like the deeper conflict I might be experiencing on an emotional level that may have caused this? And while I'm still not 100% sure what like the source of it might have been, one physical thing that was definitely contributing to it was that I had earwax stuck deep in the ear that was like really bothering me and like inflaming everything else, like the sinus, nose, whatever. So that was cool. That was an interesting experience to have that like sucked out of my ear. Well, not really sucked out, like flushed out with water. Okay. Anyway, so not important, but I'm into this kind of stuff. Okay. I'm a health freak. And like over the course of the few weeks, I've also had this weird throat thing, like coughing randomly and it just not feeling great in my throat. And because, with human design, certain body parts or areas of the body correspond with energy centers, and then energy centers have those numbers in them, which are called gates. I wanted to look into which gates I had in my throat. And sure enough, my number one gate, which is known as your conscious sun, is in there, number 62. And in the gene keys, which is like this whole other system that's almost like a companion to human design, the founder of Gene Keys was, a disciple or follower or student of Ra Uru, who started human design. And he developed the Gene Key system, which is based on the gates of human design and the I Ching and all that. Anyway, so in the Gene Keys, there's like different layers to each gate. And one of them is like the repressive state, which is like the shadowy, not so helpful way of expressing the gate. And for gate 62, which can be about like details and having like eclectic different knowledge, the repressive state is obsession. And I have definitely been obsessing over certain things and getting too detailed about certain things, especially my health, when what I could really use is a bit of like letting go and surrendering, which is so apropos because I'm recording this podcast during Pisces season. So it's like, wow, could things not be more aligned? So that's where I'm at. And I encourage you always to look at whenever you're sick. First of all, when you're sick and when you're showing physical symptoms, according to German New Medicine, that is when your body is healing. So it's in a healing phase. So you should be honestly happy that these symptoms are being expressed because it means that your body has like resolved something. But then it's about, you can like Google like your symptom and then German New Medicine, and you will probably find some sort of website that will explain the conflict related to what you experience, your symptoms, and understanding that conflict and where this may have come from, like how it kind of started emotionally and how your body adapted to those emotions is so fascinating, because then you can really try to look at your situation more objectively and understand why maybe you had a certain reaction to a situation and what you need to heal within yourself or what you need to kind of sort out within yourself so that it might not happen again. Anyway, it's like so interesting. I'm going on such a tangent. But what we're here to talk about today is a very rare astrological event that is happening April 21st, and this is the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. This is a very big deal. It only happens once every 14 years and really sets the tone for collective energies for like the next 14 years to follow. And So I'll be breaking down what it means and how you can harness the power of this breakthrough energy based on your rising sign. So we'll get a little more specific by the end of the episode. And if you're listening to this before April 8th, you can still join my Step Into Your Power Masterclass and experience it live. Of course, if you join after, that's totally fine. You'll get the recording and it'll be just as poppin'. And we're going to have the live call on Monday, April 8th, which is also the solar eclipse in Aries. We're going to be talking about what it really means to step onto your own bold path, the sort of steps I took to do that, my journey with all of that, with really claiming who I am and my individuality, which is so much of what Aries is all about, and the kind of things you might need to drop in your life or do less so that you can get there. For example, the indecision and the people pleasing. You'll also receive resources you can use as much as you need to support you in claiming and maintaining this energy with ease, which we all love and we all probably want more of. You know, why would you want things to be harder? I personally don't. So you can create a life that you truly love. So again, if you're interested in joining, please do so. The link is in the show notes and I would love to have you there. And it's going to be great. Okay, so let's talk about this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So to be very precise with it, Jupiter and Uranus are lining up at the same degree in the sign of Taurus on April 21st, 2024 at 2:27 Universal Time, which is 9:27 p.m. on April 20th EST. So for my East Coast, Toronto, New York, that time zone, Montreal people, and on April 21st at 3:27 a.m. CET or 4:27 a.m. EET for my Eastern Europe people. Hello. And this conjunction is happening at 21 degrees of Taurus, which is good to know because wherever 21 degrees of Taurus is in your chart is where you're going to be experiencing big breakthrough energy, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So I want to break down what both Uranus, Jupiter, and then Taurus represent so we can just like dial in to the energies before we talk about what the transit or event means in a wider sense. Jupiter, lovely Jupiter. We love Jupiter. Jupiter has so much to do with our beliefs. It's also our intellectual filter on the world. So where we have our Jupiter placement will say a lot about how we kind of filter things through intellectually. It's where we tend to find joy and abundance, expansion, optimism, knowledge in kind of a higher sense. Whereas Mercury, for example, might be more about like picking up little bits of information, which we all need and we need to communicate. Jupiter is more about this all-encompassing knowledge or higher education, for example. It's about luck. It's about having faith in things. It's about self-development, self-realization. Also where you might indulge or overdo things, promise too much, where you might be overconfident. It is also about bigger truths, transcendence, growth on this, you know, psychological level, physical, also cultural and spiritual. It's about higher education, as I sort of mentioned before when I was speaking about knowledge. Jupiter is also about philosophy and can also be about cultural structures and how we deal with them. And just for some context, Jupiter has been in Taurus basically since May 16th of 2023, and it's going to stay in the sign of Taurus until May 25th, 2024. And then we have Jupiter in Gemini, which is a whole other era of things, which I'm going to be talking about on a later podcast episode. So Jupiter is kind of, I would say, in between a personal and a social planet because it's not as quick as Mercury, but it's not as slow as, it's not quite as slow as Saturn, and it's definitely not as slow as Neptune or Pluto or something like that. So it's kind of bridging the gap between the personal and the collective, which is very interesting. Uranus, on the other hand, is very much a collective planet. And something that's interesting about Uranus is it was not discovered until 1781. Bam, right? So that was also a time where there was a lot of changes happening in the world, a lot of like revolutions in different countries. So I think it's really interesting how that kind of coincided, because the energy of Uranus has so much to do with that. It is this drive to be different. It is about radical change. It's this kind of electricity, I like to refer to it as. It has a lot to do with, maybe you hear the boat coming. This is real life. I live on an island. Uranus is also about independence. It's about originality. It's about being innovative, having different ideas from the norm. It's about rebellion. And with that rebellion, wanting to break free from the status quo, wanting to do things differently. It can be about sudden changes, surprises. It's very unpredictable energy as well. And in our contemporary world, it is also very much associated with technology in general and how we use it and how we deal with it. And so when it comes to Uranus on a more personal level, where we find it in our chart, our own unique Uranus placement, it is about where we want to rebel, where we want to break the rules, where we might feel like an outsider, where we've experienced sudden changes in life, and maybe where we kind of keep experiencing random things happening. It's also where we have great potential to be unconventional, to innovate, and to have ideas ahead of their time. And so looking at Uranus and Taurus, the last time Uranus and Taurus was from 1934 to 35 to 1941-42. So at the time, there was a lot of changes happening. There was the tail end of the Great Depression, there was this financial instability, and there was changing in farming methods. And then with the onset of the Second World War, there was food rationing and stuff like that. And this current Uranus and Taurus time started in 2018, and it's going to conclude in 2026. So we're at the tail end of it, but still feeling it. And before I get into a bit more about how we're experiencing Uranus in Taurus now, I do want to talk about Taurus energy. So Taurus as a sign is a fixed earth sign in astrology. So fixed is more self-aware. It's in the middle of the season. It knows what it is. It knows what it wants. It can be a little stubborn. It's, very unyielding for sure, especially Taurus specifically. And then earth energy very much has to do with all things material and physical. But Taurus specifically, being ruled by Venus, has a lot to do with all things pleasurable, all things having to do with the earth, this idea of receiving. So it's very like sensual, grounded, about the material world, nature on a more collective level, but even personal too. It can be about finances, our personal resources. It's about stability. It's about this earthiness. It's a very loyal energy. It's unyielding. It's desirous. It wants certain things. It's very hardworking energy, trustworthy, reliable, and it tends to do things step by step. And it's not really a fan of change, which is funny because that's totally in contrast to Uranus and Taurus. And, Uranus is bringing that change to Taurus energy that doesn't always want change. It wants things to be the same. So I would say with this Uranus and Taurus time, we've been seeing a lot of changes in the financial system and also in our Earth, right? With how the Earth is changing, how the climate might be changing, with farming and farming methods, right? Things like that, with food and how we interact with food. And in terms of this specific conjunction, when Jupiter and Uranus come together, it only happens every 14 years, as I said. And with it, it can bring a lot of new developments to art and culture, because Jupiter can be about that sort of like cultural realm, philosophical realm, expansion there. And then Uranus is, of course, bringing like sudden changes and newness to that. And so really, it's this crucial period of our collective evolution. So this one, very generally speaking, just because it's Jupiter and Uranus together, it's going to be big breakthrough energy and new things coming through without a doubt, right? Again, it's this collective evolution, this next step that we're going through that's setting the tone for the next 14 years, right? and it's going to reveal to us and bring us Taurian things about Taurus that need to change. So this could for sure be on the level of arts and culture, especially because Taurus is ruled by Venus, so we can see about that. For sure on the level of finances and those structures, agriculture, food production, I've really seen, and I hope you have seen too, these farmer protests really popping up and gaining momentum in the last few years. Unfortunately, I feel like they're not as covered on mainstream media, which is a real shame because, food is essential to our survival, and a lot of us are really disconnected from food and where it comes from and how to grow it and all of that. So that's something I've been personally more interested in for sure in this Uranus in Taurus time. Like now that I've come to think of it, like 2018 was the year that I radically changed my relationship to food and nourishment. And that's when I truly realized that food is medicine. And I just keep realizing it more and more, especially where I live. I have access to like food grown here as opposed to thousands of kilometers away. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to look at your relationship with what you eat, and do you know where it's coming from? Do you know anyone that grows food? Would you like to learn about growing food? Like this is a nice time for that also to think about it. And we're also seeing on the level of agriculture, governments and wealthy people buying up agricultural land for God knows what reason, as opposed to just letting farmers do their thing. And, obviously many of these farmers are protesting because they're just not being well compensated for their work. The conditions are not great. They're not being supported by their governments. And yeah, for me, this is something that really needs to change, but it's not time for me to go on a farming diatribe. But I love you, farmers. You really, you're just everything. You support life and humans. So because we're dealing with Taurus, we're dealing with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, right? So there's money involved. So I think for sure we're going to have maybe some developments with addressing the pay gap, because there's still discrepancies between the way men and women get paid for doing the exact same job, right? I think we're going to see things about universal basic income, maybe more countries implementing that like around, the end of April, or making it clear that they have plans to do so. When it comes to financial markets, things might get a little unpredictable, to be honest. We will probably also see some new currencies. Let's see, because, again, like the Jupiter Uranus coming together is just like, bam, newness that we would never have expected on the level of money because it's Taurus. So let's also see how things like crypto is evolving. Like, are there going to be any changes to the crypto market, which I have no idea about, so I'm not pretending I know about it. Are there going to be any changes to that, in April or in the subsequent months? And maybe some financial corruption scandals that come to light. Let's see about that. Let us see. So on the level of you personally and how it's going to affect you, this is a time where new opportunities can come through, like maybe out of nowhere, right? Because Uranus brings that element of surprise. It is a great time to get out of a rut. You might be feeling more optimistic, especially in a certain area of your life. Again, it's this big breakthrough energy, getting unstuck, stepping outside your norms, stepping outside your comfort zone, being really innovative. And as Georgia, who's been on this podcast before, my astrology teacher, said in her 2024 webinar, it's about like thinking multidimensionally about things, which I love. Like Uranus really brings that. It's like if something new in your life comes in and you're like afraid of it, instead of addressing it or thinking about it the way you normally would, being able to look at it from different perspectives and, see the magic in it and see the potential in it. Speaking more specifically about Taurus energy, right? it's that your relationship to materiality, resources, and sensuality might change. Maybe all of a sudden you get a sudden breakthrough in those areas. Maybe you think, actually, material things don't really matter to me very much anymore, or they do matter to me more, and I want to be more aware of this in my life. Let's see how that unfolds for you. And so now I'll get in briefly about how this transit, this Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus, is going to affect each and every single rising sign. So for Aries rising, this is going to affect your second house of finances, self-worth, possessions, values, ownership, the effective use of your potential, your things, and what belongs to you in general. So expect some breakthrough energy in that area of your life on the 21st. And then with Taurus, and especially, my Taurus sun and moon people, in addition to Taurus risings, this is really going to affect you personally, yourself, your ego, maybe putting yourself out there, doing things for you, your individuality, and also huge new beginnings potentially for you. Then Gemini, this is going to happen in your 12th house, which is all about the subconscious, inner work, endings, spirituality, being of service to others, and finishing things up and preparing for a new cycle. So for you, Gemini, it might not be as outward as it could be for other rising signs, but huge potential for a breakthrough on the level of your subconscious. And the subconscious essentially rules your life, so it's not a bad place to have a good breakthrough in. For Cancer risings, this is going to take place in your 11th house, all about groups, friends, community, humanity, higher aspirations. So maybe you all of a sudden find yourself in a new community that's really inspiring, or you transition out of a friend group so you have space to meet new friends that are more aligned with you. The 11th house is also about dreams and generally the best way to put to use and enjoy what you've achieved. And yeah, it's about expression as members of a community, and it's about imagining better ways to organize people. So all those are things that you might experience changes or new things in. Cancer rising. For my Leo risings, this is going to be in your 10th house, all about being a boss kind of stuff. It's about the 10th house is about your most fruitful ways to achieve, has to do with your profession, your career, your public reputation, and the way that you fulfill yourself individually through participating in the world. So there might be big new opportunities when it comes to your career, totally shifting your career, like pivoting. Let's see. I'm excited for you, Leo rising. Let's see how it shakes out for you. For my Virgo risings, this is happening in your 9th house, which has to do with higher education, your beliefs, religion, long distance travel, deeper understanding, greater expansion of consciousness in general. And the 9th house is also about generalizing and communicating things. So this could be about beliefs, philosophy, things like that. So it might be, Virgo, that you go on a trip somewhere around the end of April or after. It could be that just in general, all of a sudden your beliefs are a bit shaken and you develop new beliefs about the world, new greater beliefs about the world. Or you might all of a sudden start to learn something new or want to go back to school or want to study under someone. Then we have Libra. And Libra, this is happening in your 8th house, which is all about shared resources, other people's money, taxes, inheritance. It's also very much about who you are on a deep psychological level. So this can be about deep soul work, uncovering things, transforming yourself and your self-image, the anima and animus, rational mind and soul, how that plays out for you. Deep transformation energy is happening for you, Libra, sudden. Or there might be a sudden change to how you share your resources with people. For my Scorpio rising people, this is hitting your 7th house, right? Because Taurus rules your 7th house. So this is all about close relationships, partnerships, collaboration, balance, cooperation, and sharing. relationship, the idea of relationship is participating in a greater whole and fulfilling your individual destiny through partnership. So there might be sudden changes in that for you. So hold tight and see what that means. Maybe it's, coming to, if you're already in some kind of partnership or whatever, getting to a new level of it. Maybe you've already decided that it's time to uncouple or, wrap things up. And maybe this is your push to actually conclude things. Maybe this is bringing something new into your life. Let's see. So then for Sagittarius rising, this is hitting your 6th house, all about health, routine, habits, daily life and work. Can be about experiences of crisis and personal readjustment. So there might be some kind of like readjustment that you have to make here with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction. It's also about being a disciple and how that can transform you. And the 6th house can also be about the test of suffering and the capacity to serve. So thinking about serving people as well. So yeah, let's see if you might have some breakthroughs when it comes to your health and routine and habits. There might be a sudden things that happens that makes you address these areas of your life more in a deeper way. Let's see about that. Then for my Capricorn risings, this is hitting your 5th house, which has to do with creativity as the expression of your personal power. It has to do with children or your own inner child, play, fun, self-expression, love affairs, romance, acting from your innermost nature, and this idea of exteriorizing power and really putting it to use. So something to think about. This is definitely a great time to start something new creatively. Capricorn, maybe you've had ideas about something to start, and this might be the push you need to actually get going on it or restart. Aquarius risings, this is hitting your 4th house of home, family, ancestors, roots, inner foundation. The 4th house is where you integrate your personality. It's the center of your own universe, and it's about who you are fundamentally. So there might be some of that shifts within you. There might be changes in your home, physically where you live. Your idea of home shifts in your family. If you've had issues with family, this could be the breakthrough energy you need to resolve them or start to get through them. And then finally, for my Pisces risings, this is hitting your 3rd house, which is all about your intellect. Basically, it can be having to do with writing, communicating. It's a great time to work on your mindset. You might have breakthroughs in your mindset. The 3rd house is about shorter distance travel. It's about siblings, your extended family, like cousins. It can be about your childhood environment, intelligence, the search for knowledge, and it's also related to your nervous system. So these are some areas where you might have breakthrough energy, Pisces, to push you forward. And so because this transit is happening at 21 degrees of Taurus, this will especially affect people with planets at 20 to 22 degrees of the Earth sign. So of Taurus, of course, Virgo and Capricorn. So take a look at your chart and see if you got any of that going on, because it's really going to impact you even more. And if you're a little more intermediate in astrology and you're familiar with your own natal chart and like what it looks like, you can look at where 21 degrees of Taurus is in your chart, because it might not correspond to what I just said according to your rising sign. For me, it doesn't. For me, I'm an Aquarius rising, but it's hitting my 3rd house and not my 4th house. So just something to keep in mind if you want to get a little more precise with it. But I'm sure from those rising sign descriptions, you'll probably still resonate. And if you are into keeping up with these kind of astrological events, I really recommend getting into my 2024 digital astrology planner. It is so worth it. It's 20 euros and 24 cents for the entire year of astrological events like these, straight to your Google Calendar or iCal with a little description for each. So you can plan out your months, your weeks, your quarters accordingly. You can see when the astrological season starts. You can see when we have eclipse season, when we have new and full moons, all that good stuff. So that's available on my website, lifeforcesinc.com, if I don't put in the show notes for whatever reason. But thank you so much for being here. I really hope you can take this breakthrough energy and make something beautiful out of it, or just, if you've been feeling a little stuck, to just know that it won't last forever. And this can definitely help you, this amazing Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus. And yeah, I mean, we're always experiencing change. Sometimes it's bigger changes, sometimes it's smaller changes, but just be open to different possibilities. And even if something feels a little scary at first, know that it is for your highest good. And if you really want to harness this breakthrough energy and use it to step more into your power and the person that you want to be and that you came here to be, come to the 7 to Your Power Masterclass, happening live April 8th, but you'll get the replay after regardless, with so many resources to keep you on track, setting better boundaries, for example. We're definitely going to talk about that. It's going to be amazing. And I'm really happy to do something in a group setting with all of you. So sending you lots of love, and hope you're having a great April, and see you here next week.